And there we go.
Awesome. I assume, are you recording both of us, or should I be recording on my end as well?
If you want to, but it should be recording both of us.
Okay, cool. I'll actually open up and I'll record in case, and that way it ends up sounding better if you have both anyway.
Indeed.
Yeah, give me 1 second. All right, I'm all good.
So,
Mm-hmm.
Bryson Bugas. Is that right?
Bogus.
Bryson Bogus. How are you doing
Yes.
today, good sir?
Pretty good. Just been chilling. It's a Sunday, so we ate some food and took the dog out, and yeah, I've just been kind of chilling today, for the most part.
Happy to hear, and I've been doing the same. So, I
Yeah.
think I got questions from Discord fans, I believe. So, I guess I'll
Oh
start
wow.
with a few of them.
Nice.
Uh, well, one question I think I wrote down personally is did you know you'd be working on both the CGI and the classic in the beginning?
So actually, that's an interesting question. I didn't know about that because we started working on the CGI reboot of Seiya back in 20, was it 2017? 2018. It was early. I think it was 2017. But it was basically, yeah, it was 2017 because it took 2 years from whenever we first started recording it to its release in 2019. And I had just heard from the director of the CGI reboot, like maybe a month before we started working on the classic show, like, hey, they want to redub the old show, but with you as Seiya. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna be busy the rest of the year. So that was a good thing. But yeah, we definitely found out about that way later. But it was a super cool surprise to find out, and I was like, yes, we get to work on both.
I have to imagine because that's a lot of that's a lot of work. That's 110 episodes right there.
115, yeah. We did all that in half a year or so. It was like maybe 8 to 9 months it took us to record the whole thing, and now it's all up right away. And I was like, oh dang, that was so fast. But like basically the entire second half of 2019 was just one long work day for me. Yeah.
Tell you why they decided to do the classic.
Not I that's way above me, honestly. I wouldn't really know. I think it has something to do with just like wanting to bring in some of the old fans as well, who may have been a little hesitant to try something new. But I don't really know. That's all just my speculation itself. But I think it was a good idea because I'm biased and it gave me more work, so.
Yes, it did. Yes, it is. Happy to hear.
Yes.
One thing else I found curious, I don't know if you know about, but I believe before even any of those got dubbed, the Lost Canvas anime, Saint Seiya the Lost Canvas, a spin-off,
Mhm.
got a dub. I think before even the CGI. Do you know anything about that?
I'm familiar with that. I think they had some people in LA do the dub for that series. I don't really know too much about it because I haven't seen that one. But I do remember when that first came out, a few friends of mine from that market were announcing their involvement in that. So I think that one went to a studio over in LA. I don't know exactly why they decided to switch studios or if they decided that they wanted an all new cast for, I guess, because I'm not too familiar with Lost Canvas, but I think, does it have like a different cast of characters, or is it just like slightly different variations of the main cast or so? I don't know if that might have influenced the decision or not, but yeah.
Well, within the I guess you could say the canon of the universe, it's
Mhm.
a prequel and it's set in a alternate universe with different characters. So
Ah, okay,
that's
gotcha,
probably why.
gotcha.
Yeah.
So that might be a big reason why they decided to get a new cast and everything like that. But yeah.
Okay, and another one from a man named Kelly Fish on Discord.
All right.
When did you first become aware of the series?
So I had always kind of sort of heard about it. I never sat down and watched it or read it because leading up to this release, I didn't know of any way that I could watch it, or anything like that. And I knew it was a pretty prolific series because I'd seen so many different variations and spin-offs and all that kind of stuff. But it was never really a series that I'd looked into deeply. But whenever they started casting for the reboots, that was the first I had heard about like our involvement and all that stuff. I did do a little bit of looking into it, just to get an idea of what it is we were going into, and even for the first read through. So normally in anime we don't really read through the scripts ahead of time, but for the CGI reboot, the first episode that we recorded, which was actually episode 2, since it had a larger amount of the cast, we sat down and we did like a table read and everything like that, and the director and the Japanese producers and stuff were there, and they were giving us tips about like where we can go to look up different information about the classic show and how that can inform us in the new show and all that stuff. But yeah, it was something that I had heard passively sort of over the years. Long, short answer, long. Yeah.
So the Japanese producers, how they exactly tell you to dig up information?
So basically they were just telling us, I think at the time some of the arcs of the classic show were on Crunchyroll at the time. I don't think they're there anymore now that Netflix has it, but I think this was like a couple years ago. So I think around that time is whenever they pointed us in that direction to check out a few episodes here and there. And it was a lot, so I didn't really have the time to go home and watch the entire thing and all that stuff going in, but I did check out like a bit here and there throughout the series to get a feel for what kind of show it was and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a question from Gawkin, which you somewhat answered. Do you watch the series personally yourself? And if you do, who is your favorite saint?
I've been watching this recent release of the classic show, and I watched the reboot when it first came out just because I like going back and watching and seeing how the final product turned out, because when we're recording the shows we don't really see the show. We just kind of go from line to line and we don't see anything in between. For the most part. So I haven't finished the classic series. I think I got up to episode maybe 30 something. But yeah, I've definitely been enjoying it. And then favorite Saint slash Knight, you said. I really like Long slash Shiryu. Depending on which version of the show you're watching. I think he's just super cool. I always liked dragons when I was a kid, so I thought he was a really cool guy. And I like his long, luscious hair. It's great.
Yes, cool anime character.
Yes.
Yes, yes,
The cool, collected, super smart guy.
yes. Oh, and from nice lady in Poland,
Mm.
Saina, did the role of Seiya change anything about your life?
Because of how fast it went, in terms of the classic show, it was just kind of like we mowed through it, and because we couldn't talk about it for super long, it's really just now starting to affect like I guess seeing how many people loved the show and all this stuff like that. I had heard that it was a really popular thing, but ever since announcing the reboot and then even further after that announcing the classic show, it seems more and more people are starting to reach out and be like, hey, this is such a great show and you did a good job and all this stuff. And like I'm just now starting to get a lot of that sort of interaction with fans and stuff like that. In terms of the role itself, it was definitely a change in that I had never worked on something so I'm
So
trying to think of the
big,
word, so
so long.
action and so long, big, actiony, and
Oh
like
yeah.
a lot of the characters I've played in the past, they can be a little bit actiony, like Belle from Danmachi or Hinata from Haikyuu. But like this show is just like Dragon Ball Z levels of just constant fighting and rah! And it was like I learned a lot of new skills and had to learn real fast how to build stamina in the booth and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, this is a classic action
Battle
series.
anime.
Is
Yeah.
yes, old school, like just 70% action, just fighting, grr, and punching, all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
I know that. 20% beating up the guy and then 80% getting beat up by the guy.
Okay, see one more question. Oh yes, Ramses asking, how different is the recording between the CGI and the classic exactly?
So for the classic, we basically dubbed it like we do any other sort of anime, where we have the finished animation, we have the classic footage and the sound effects and all that stuff is already put in, and we're just going in and replacing the voices and such. For the classic CGI show, I don't know if anybody noticed or anything like that, or if they looked closely at it. But when you watch the CGI animation, you can tell that the mouth movements are actually going to the English audio, not the Japanese audio, and that's because we actually recorded the English audio for the show before the Japanese in this case, and they took basically what we would do is we would record the script to like storyboards and animatics and stuff like that for each episode, and then after we were done recording that, they would basically put like a camera on our face so that they can have a reference for how the mouth moves and stuff like that. So we basically we'd record the lines, and then after we were done, we'd take a break, and then we'd come back and they'd put the camera on and they would just play back my lines, and I'd repeat it back to the camera so they can see what shapes my mouth make and all that stuff whenever I say certain things. And yeah, that's basically how that sort of went for the CGI versus the classic.
Okay, thank you.
Hmm.
Let's see what else. I guess what do you believe, and what is your own personal for the series and how well it would do?
Well, obviously, I do hope that it does really well. I think it has had a pretty strong start so far, and I can only hope that they bring us back for future seasons and stuff. Knowing that the fact that the old show is so long and has so much material to work with, I hope that we can eventually get to some of that in the reboot as well, because I'd love to revisit some of those scenes and see what they decide to do with that. See how much of it they decided to keep from the original, see how much they wanted to either improve or slightly change or something like that. I definitely just want to see where they go with it, basically.
Same. And
Hmm.
at least from my end, like the series has always been to everyone outside, a series that people are kind of aware of. If you're in the anime, you're aware of it, but it hasn't been very easy to access or
Hmm.
recommend. But now it has become way more easier to access and
It's
recommend
everywhere, yeah.
because on Netflix. And I
Yeah.
have been seeing like say videos from popular YouTube places like Watch Mojo or whatever that were recommended. So
Hmm.
from that perspective, I have been seeing sort of the popularity rise and rise slowly from there.
And I think that has to do with like the way that it was brought to the States initially. I don't know too much of the backstory behind it. I just know that it had a bit of a struggle launching in the States when it initially released, so it has a little bit of a smaller audience, I think, in terms of the mainstream down here. But it supposedly, and from what I've heard from personal friends that grew up watching it, it was like a huge hit in Latin America and Mexico and all that stuff. And so I think that might also be part of why they decided to push for bringing it to the States with a new dub and the new thing. And I think that was also just like, we want to push this back to the States and see if we can give it like a second wind and a second life. And it seems like it's working pretty well so far.
Yeah, so it seems like it's doing well as far as I'm with.
Hmm.
Now
Hmm.
I guess the 115 episodes, and the next is the entire Hades arc. I don't know if you can tell me, but have you started working on Hades yet?
We have not. I will say that we haven't. I hope that we do get to. If we had, I wouldn't be able to tell you,
Yeah, I
unfortunately. But
figured.
I will say that we haven't yet. But I like I said, I don't know. They could be in talks with that. If they are, I'd love to come back and do that as well. But that'd be great.
Yes, but I'm guessing, like, say, it started like from maybe 2012, so I'm guessing a lot of it had to do with licensing to get it over here. That's why it took so long.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. It's yeah, I'm just an actor. They tell me, "Hey, come do this voice." And I was like, "Okay, I'll come do that voice." And then they're like, "Yeah, good, you did the voice. Now go home."
For whatever it's worth, I think your voice fits the character pretty well.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. Well, at the moment, that's all the questions I have. Is there anything you wanted to get across to the fans of the series?
Well, thank you for having me, and I just wanted to say thank you guys all for being super supportive. And I have seen on Twitter a lot of people reacting to the new dub and the reboot, and it's been mostly positive stuff, and so I'm really happy to see that. So I wanted to thank you all guys. If any of you guys aren't familiar, I am on Twitter at Bogus Bryson. If you do want to follow me and send me some of that support as well, if you weren't aware. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
All right, everyone, follow my man on Twitter,
Hey.
Bogus Bryson. Okay, thank you, good sir. I will do the best. Also, do the best I can to talk to other voice actors that work on this series. Are you close to any of them?
I'm pretty close with a handful of friends. My friend Blake Jackson, who does the voice of Shun for the classic dub, he's a real good friend of mine. We hang out. Well, we did hang out all the time before the quarantine and all that stuff. But that's hopefully not going to last too much longer. But he's a good friend of mine. Joe Daniels, he's another voice actor who did Dante in the classic dub, as well as the name is dropping from my head right now. Wait, 1 second. You can cut this out. Wait, Kraken Isaac. That was his name. He also played Kraken Isaac in the most recent bit. So I'm really good friends with Blake and Joe, and then yeah, and the rest of the cast is all amazing. I think a majority of the cast, in my experience, are pretty receptive to messages about like interviews and stuff like that. So I feel like if you are looking to interview any of them, just shoot them a message on Twitter. If they don't have open DMs, maybe they'll have an email somewhere that you can probably just like reach out to them or something. But yeah, they mostly seem like pretty down to earth people, and they more than likely, I'm sure, would be able to spend a little bit of time to do a little interview.
Absolutely that. And another thing that crossed my mind, like if it does get better, I mean, it does get more popular eventually, you guys will be voicing video games and stuff like that.
I hope so. I know that they don't dub a whole lot of anime video games, but I'd love to be in. I'd love it if Seiya games were the ones to get dubbed. So
It is getting more rare, but it is always nice to see it.
hmm
Well, okay, sir. It's been nice talking to you.
Nice talking to you as well. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.